Hey folks, welcome to the Green on Green Show. I'm John Green and I'm here with Tiffany Smith, my co-host of the show. And I tell you, real excited about today's show. This is actually part 2 of a series we started talking about bungalow and ranch style renovations. And I tell you, I like both. I like bungalows quite a bit, and I really like ranch style homes. And especially if you're going to renovate and do the green building thing, they both just fit in very nicely to accomplish those goals that the science of green building is all about. So with that, I'm going to kind of turn it over to Tiffany and let her talk to you a little bit about what we're going to get into today, talking about ranch style renovations.
Well, thank you, John. And the topic of renovating is especially exciting to me because there's so much existing housing stock. So a lot of the greater Asheville area consists of bungalows and ranch-style homes, ranchettes. The ranch-style home, just to give you a little bit of history, started really picking up pace in the 1940s and went all the way through the 1970s. So that's where you see the bulk of ranch-style homes coming out of that particular time period. And even further back, it is rooted in a combination of adobe and ranch outbuildings, essentially, on large acre family ranches. So this was an opportunity for designers to help create a connection for the person living in the home between the inside of the home and the outside of the home. A lot of ranch style floor plans, you will notice, have a very even grade from inside to outside. So that was something really innovative in the 40s. A lot of the homes previous, the bungalows particularly, were set up on piers, and so that's a big architectural difference you'll notice is going to a grade on grade from interior to exterior. So I look forward to sharing more about some of the green upgrades you can make to these ranch style homes, but want to mention one more thing about making the case for renovating versus always building green in the new construction respect. Tear downs are a big issue throughout the country. Historic neighborhoods are losing their integrity, losing their character all throughout the country, and it's important. The next slide shows North Carolina having a very small percentage of cities, luckily, compared to, say, New York or some of the other states that have really big teardown issues. So this is on the National Historic website. You can find information about how to preserve your historic neighborhoods.
Okay, well, good deal. I know I was thinking back while you were talking, I actually grew up in Columbia, South Carolina. And as a young boy, we had a ranch that I grew up in, and it was a rather simple home, modest home, and wasn't really that turned on by it back in the day, but I tell you, it would be a great house now, knowing what I know about the green building thing, to do a renovation on. It really would.
Well, and something, John, that you point out, you paint this picture of where you grew up, and people have a real attachment to their neighborhoods. And when you build a McMansion, if you will, in a neighborhood of bungalows or a neighborhood of modest-sized ranchettes, it really starts to change the scale of the neighborhood and change the feel of the neighborhood. So that's why we're bringing up the topic of renovation, not only to use existing housing stock, but to preserve character in neighborhoods.
Well, exactly. And talking about the green building thing, I love talking about, the quality over quantity type issue. You don't have to have a big, like you said, McMansion to have a nice house. You can have a very, very high quality, very architecturally pleasing home that's very, very energy efficient. And that's one more reason I love green building.
And especially with rising operational costs, heating costs, water costs, it's beginning to make a lot more financial sense to build a smaller home rather than, have a really expanding square footage.
Well, that's exactly right. You look at a lot of these houses that people have out there, and there's so many rooms in the house that they never use, whether it be the dining room, the formal living room. You've got all these rooms that are furnished with expensive furniture. They just sit and collect dust. They're just not functional. And, people are getting tuned into that. Why have those rooms? Why have that living space that you're heating, cooling, furnishing for no reason. It just doesn't make good sense.
It doesn't make good sense, and it's very relevant to our topic today, the ranch-style home, because that's one of the first architectural types in the United States where you really see a transition from doing a lot of separate rooms, formal rooms, to more great room style architecture. So we're going to show some slides here of local ranch homes that look like they could use a little TLC, but we're just going to kind of paint the picture for you guys. And then explain some of the improvements you can do. So these are, basic floor plans, tend to be U-shaped or L-shaped. And this is a before. This next one, look at that after.
Wow,
I mean, that has some serious curb appeal, so it can be done. There are pretty significant things that you can do to make these homes more energy efficient. And I'd like to just take a moment with you, John, to review what some of the basics are.
Well, some of the basics are, of course, you're going to be looking at the roof system. A lot of your older houses do need new roofs. That's just one of the things you're going to find. And one aspect, when you're going to want to do a complete roof tear-off. That's a no-brainer. Get rid of the old roof completely. Examine what you've got as far as the roof decking, the substrate, get that repaired, put a radiant barrier on the underneath side. That's going to dramatically cool down the attic space. You're probably on some of these old ranchers where you've got the vented soffit, you're probably not going to want to take your insulation up to the roof line. You're probably going to want to do radiant barrier and just blow in a lot more insulation in the attic. And you can do that for several $100s. I was out at a couple of the big box stores this weekend pricing that stuff, and on a 1,000 square foot attic space, you can increase your insulation by 50% for $200 to $400. It just varies on the type of insulation, if you're using blown cellulose or if you're using recycled blown fiberglass. Depending upon the product you use, you can do that for a couple $100 if you do it yourself. It's very economical to go from like R38 in your attic up to almost an R60, which is huge. That's going to make a big difference on the energy efficiency component.
And on the roof topic, standing seam roof systems, do you have much experience with those? Don't
have a lot of experience personally doing them. I like them, and one of the things is they are a tad bit more expensive, not that much. I think if you're really going to stay in the house for a long time and you're looking at the sustainability, the longevity of the home, ease of maintenance, a standing seam metal roof is the way to go. Sometimes it can be a hard sell with the homeowner. They would rather put that extra money in something like the insulation or some other components. So once again, you can go to a high grade architectural style shingle, and even some of the new cool shingle type materials that are going to save you a lot of energy on that roof.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the life cycle analysis. If you're going to stay in that home for an extended period of time and retire there, or you think you're going to be there for 20 years, then it makes sense to invest in something like a standing seam roof that will buy you twice the lifetime as a shingle roof will buy.
Well, absolutely. And especially, another component of that I really like the standing seam metal roofs is if you are going to do any type of rain catchment. Those are very, very good for that, of course, because you don't get the contaminants or potential contaminants from the petroleum-based type shingle materials off your roof if you're catching all that water and using it for different things around the house. So I can't say enough about them. They are a little more expensive, but they last forever. I think they're great, and I think they're very architecturally pleasing depending upon what type you go with. They can look really, really nice on a home.
Well, and in the water conserving respect, certainly a high quality water is beneficial. However, most people wonder, am I collecting, well, people who aren't currently collecting rainwater will wonder, do I use this for drinking? Do I use this to flush toilets? Well, currently, most rainwater harvesting is used for landscape purposes, and it's much better for the plants to use rainwater rather than an irrigation system that's tied into a chlorinated municipal source. So, a chlorinated municipal source is costing you money, where the rain is there as a free benefit. And you can also hook up some drip line irrigation to some of those rain barrels.
Well, absolutely. That's a good point I wanted to talk about. You can do the drip line irrigation off those rain barrels. And I've heard some people complain about the rain barrels, saying, well, you know, they fill up, but the gravity feed on the rain barrel enough, there's not enough pressure to really do the watering I need to do around my yard. And one thing I want to mention, you can go on the web and you can search, and there are a ton of companies that make the little motorized pumps that you can hook to the outlet of your rain barrel so that you do get pressurized water out of those and can more effectively use that water you catch in those rain barrels. So that's not an issue. It's just that people aren't aware of those little pumps you can get.
And maybe in the future, harvested rainwater will be easier to use in the indoor setting, but currently most local permitting allows for landscape use, but it can be a little bit of a pinch to use it inside. I have heard of rainwater being used to flush toilets.
Absolutely. Yeah, some people do that. And of course, then, you know, a little bit about the, we've talked about the gray water systems that are getting more popular as things get more greener out there. But I just wanted to touch base on the potable water, just how much potable water we waste in our homes that we don't need to be wasting. Just to throw out a quick number, a stat that I like to talk about on the show, a typical family of 4 in a home, typical family of 4 around here, is going to use 100,000 gallons of water per year. That's huge. That's a lot of water. Just by going through that home, putting aerators on the faucets, putting low flow heads on the showers, like 1.5 GPM heads on your showers, as well as converting your toilets to dual flush toilets, you will cut your water usage in half. So a family of 4 would go from 100,000 gallons to 50,000 gallons. And that's a huge number because that is good, clean, potable water you're using in your house for everything, to wash your hands, to shower, to wash your dishes, to wash your clothes. And just a fact I was looking up on the web today, there are 1 in 6 people in this world that do not have good, clean drinking water. That number is huge. That's the biggest need that people need in all these third world countries. The reason they're suffering is they do not have good, clean drinking water. And we just so abundantly waste it over here in this country. It just amazes me. So we'd like to put an end to that.
I absolutely agree, and it's remarkable what a dent you can make in your water consumption by doing some of these simple, very inexpensive upgrades. In fact, the dual flush kit you can get at some of the bigger box hardware retailers, and they're very inexpensive. And we invite you to use some of those new technologies in your home. We have some more slides queued up to show some before and after pictures of ranch-style homes. This is a before sunroom, and the next slide, there's an after. So
wow.
you can create quite an impression even in this particular architectural style.
And what's so amazing is that windows, doors, sheetrock, that stuff is so inexpensive to really give everything a new look and make it energy efficient.
Definitely. And in that last slide we just showed, this is the after, that was the before. So a lot of people are turned off by a home when they see all that pink tile from the 50s, but you know, it's really cosmetic. It's not that big of a deal to replace interior finishes. And we have some more slides after this. This is a home out of state actually, but I thought it was just a really great example of a ranch style remodel. And we're just going to flash through some of the interior